Good morning. This is Megan Herbst with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District with your conservation report for Saturday, May 28th. Happy Memorial Day weekend out there to everyone listening. This week I would like to discuss a couple of timely topics, but something that has been anything but timely, as everyone is well aware, is fieldwork. So to start off, I want to highlight an article by Liz Stahl, Extension Crops Educator, which is titled Dealing with Planting Delays. Both corn and soybean do hold their yield potential pretty well when planted up until mid-May, especially when the season starts out as cool as it has in 2022. After this point, however, decreases in yield potential will become more significant. If planting is delayed until May 25th, yield potential for corn drops to around 87 to 92% of the maximum and to 91% of the maximum for soybeans. If planting is delayed until May 30th, yield potential for corn drops to 82 to 89% of the maximum and to 87% of the maximum for soybeans. If planting is further delayed until June 4th, corn can be expected to yield 76 to 84% of the maximum and soybeans 82% of their maximum. Soybeans, however, can be planted throughout June, but their yield potential drops to about 50% of the maximum with a planting date of July 1st. It is recommended to stay the course with full season adapted corn maturities until about May 22nd. For soybeans, the standard recommendation is to keep with your original maturity until June 10th, at which point it is recommended to switch to a variety 0.5 maturity group earlier. However, if you started with a shorter season variety, you can hold on to that maturity until late June. And as far as soil conditions go, corn is not very forgiving if it's mudded in, and when the calendar and weather are both working against you, it can be very tempting to push soil conditions to get the crop in. But results from a University of Minnesota Extension survey of farmers after the 2019 season, when Minnesota had an unprecedented level of prevent plant acres, it really demonstrated the importance of soil conditions at planting on yield potential. So when adjusted for planting date, planting into a good condition resulted in the greatest reported yields of both corn and soybeans, but corn yields dropped 2 bushels per acre when conditions were described as slightly wet and 10 bushels per acre when conditions were described as very wet. Another thing to consider is that when time is very tight, it's tempting to forego a pre-emerge herbicide and focus on planting. But effective pre-emergence herbicides are critical for control of problem weeds like water hemp, especially since many of our water hemp populations are resistant to multiple post-emergence herbicides. Please also keep in mind that many pre-emerge herbicides used in soybeans cannot be used once soybeans start to emerge. Be sure to check herbicide labels for options and prioritize weed control along with planting to help protect your yield potential. So how late is too late? The last recommended planting date in Minnesota for corn for grain is June 5th in central and northern Minnesota. Planting corn in June in Minnesota does carry much risk and is dependent on your situation. Taking prevent plant or switching to another crop may be a better alternative, but hopefully the weather will cooperate and farmers will be able to wrap up planting season very soon if they haven't already. The second topic I want to discuss is a much more happy topic, and that is the State Envirothon, which took place last week in Fergus Falls at the Prairie Wetlands Learning Center. At the State Envirothon, the top 22 teams from around the state competed, and I had the pleasure of judging the oral presentations, which had the topic of waste to resources. You could really tell that all of the teams put a lot of work into their oral presentations. They had really nice visual aids. You could tell that they had spent a lot of time memorizing their lines. They rehearsed and they really knew their stuff. They were able to answer several questions that were asked of them after their presentations were done. We were all very impressed with their professionalism. And for those of you that don't know, the Envirothon takes place every year, and it's made up of each team is made up of 5 students, and they compete at 6 different learning stations in the fields of aquatics, wildlife, soils, forestry, oral presentation, and current events. This year, The top 5 teams at the State Envirothon, they all ranked scored very closely. The top 5 teams were all within 5 points of each other, but there can only be one winner. And so this year, Stearns County's very own Sartell St. Stephen High School will be traveling to Ohio in July for the National Envirothon. So a big congratulations to those students and to their advisor. I know that they will make Stearns County very proud at nationals. It's very cool to see a Stearns County high school take the top place at the State Envirothon. But that's about it for me this week. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. This has been Megan Herbst with your Conservation Report.